Lucas Voss sat in the briefing room, staring at the glowing document hovering in front of him. The official emblem of the Galactic Union shimmered at the top, but his focus was on the bold words in the center. ANTERSPECIES Union Program Human Participation Required. He sighed, running a hand through his short, dark blonde hair. His sharp blue eyes flicked across the text again, hoping he had misunderstood. But no, there it was, clear as day. Earth's leaders had signed an agreement, and now he had been selected for an intergalactic diplomatic marriage. Lucas wasn't opposed to aliens. He had fought alongside them, worked with them, even shared a few drinks with them after long missions. But marriage, that was a whole different battlefield. A robotic voice echoed through the room. "Commander Voss, your assigned partner has arrived." Lucas straightened. He had been given no choice in the matter, but at the very least, he hoped his future wife wasn't some tentacled horror. He turned toward the entrance as the doors slid open with a soft hiss. And then he saw her. Zevera stepped inside with the confidence of a warrior queen. She was tall, easily 6.5 feet, with an athletic yet graceful build. Her long, flowing obsidian black hair cascaded over gleaming silver armor, and her piercing violet eyes locked onto Lucas with a gaze so intense it made his skin prickle. Her smooth, copper-toned skin shimmered slightly under the artificial lights, and she carried herself with the unmistakable presence of someone used to command. Lucas had seen powerful warriors before, but Zevera was something else entirely. She studied him for a moment before speaking, her voice smooth but firm. "You are the human." Lucas cleared his throat. Yes. Lucas Voss, Earth's representative." Her eyes narrowed slightly, as if analyzing every inch of him. "You look smaller than I expected." Lucas frowned. "And you look taller than I expected." A moment of silence. Then, to his surprise, Zevera smirked. "At least you have some spirit." Lucas exhaled, trying to process the situation. He was about to be married to this woman. A warrior, a queen, and an alien. He decided to take the professional approach. "All right, so how does this work? Some kind of ceremony. Do we sign something?" Zevera tapped a glowing panel on her wrist. The holographic contract expanded between them, lines of alien text shifting to English. Lucas skimmed the details, noting the usual political jargon: peace agreements, trade benefits, military cooperation, until he reached a section that made him freeze. Offspring requirement. Minimum of one child. Lucas blinked. "Wait, what?" Zevera frowned at the text, then turned to him with a look of disbelief. "One." Lucas slowly nodded. "Yeah, that's what it says." Zevera crossed her arms, looking deeply unimpressed. "That is unacceptable." Lucas tilted his head. "Excuse me." She gestured sharply toward the contract. "One child is not enough. The Thel-Carry population is dwindling. Your species has strong genetic adaptability. If this is to be a true alliance, we must produce at least 15. Lucas nearly choked. 15. Zevera didn't blink. "Yes. Minimum." Lucas stared at her, his mind reeling. He had expected political negotiations, cultural adjustments, maybe even a difficult first year of marriage. But this. He exhaled slowly. "Okay, I think we need to talk." Zevera raised a single elegant eyebrow. "Then speak, husband." Lucas groaned. He had a feeling this was just the beginning. Lucas Voss sat across from Zevera in a high-tech negotiation room aboard the Galactic Union's flagship. The walls pulsed with soft blue light, and a transparent display hovered between them, showing the details of their marriage contract. But Lucas wasn't reading anymore. His mind was still stuck on the part that made him nearly fall out of his chair. 15 kids. Minimum. He took a deep breath. "Look, Zevera, I think there's been a misunderstanding." She tilted her head slightly, her long black hair flowing over her armored shoulders. What is there to misunderstand? A strong lineage ensures survival. The Thalkari do not bear weak numbers. Lucas pinched the bridge of his nose. Yeah, but humans don't exactly plan for that many. 1 or 2, maybe 3. But 15. That's a full soccer team. Severa leaned forward, resting her arms on the table. Her violet eyes locked onto his, unblinking. Your kind values strategy, do they not? Think of it as securing a strong future for both our people. A single child is a wasted opportunity. Lucas opened his mouth, then closed it. He had faced enemy soldiers, rogue guys, and political backstabbing. But he had never faced this. He needed an approach that wouldn't turn his terrifyingly beautiful alien wife into an enemy. He leaned back, crossing his arms. All right, let's think about this logically. Raising kids takes time. Humans aren't like some species that can hatch 100 eggs and be done with it. Zevered gave him a skeptical look. I am aware of human biology. Great, then you know that raising 15 kids isn't just about numbers. It's about energy, resources, and... Lucas hesitated before continuing. The sanity of the parents. Zevera smirked. You believe yourself too weak for the task. Lucas groaned. That's not what I... He stopped himself. He had to be smart about this. I mean, shouldn't we start with one and see how things go? Zavera narrowed her eyes. You would bargain with me. Negotiation is part of every strong alliance, Lucas said carefully. Zavera tapped her fingers against the table, thinking. The way her expression softened slightly told Lucas he had made progress, but not enough. She exhaled. A compromise. Then, Lucas felt a flicker of hope. I'm listening. Zavera straightened. We shall prepare for 10. Lucas nearly fell out of his chair again. That's your compromise. She nodded, as if it were the most reasonable thing in the galaxy. A respectable number. Fewer than 15, yet enough to be of value. Lucas ran a hand through his hair, trying to figure out if she was joking. She wasn't. He needed to act fast. 5, he blurted out. That's my final offer. Zavera studied him for a long moment. Then, to his utter shock, she smiled. A slow, knowing smile. Very well, she said. 5. Lucas blinked. Wait, really? She leaned forward slightly. For now. His stomach dropped. He had walked right into her trap. Before he could argue, the display blinked, finalizing the contract. A robotic voice announced, agreement confirmed. The union is now official. Lucas stared at the glowing words. He was now married to Zavera. And at some point in the near future, he was going to be the father of 5 very strong-willed alien children. Zavera stood, extending a hand. Come, husband. It is time to return to our new home. Lucas hesitated before taking her hand. As he was pulled to his feet, only one thought echoed in his mind. What have I gotten myself into? Lucas followed Zavera through the gleaming corridors of the Thalkari warship, Verakesh. The ship was massive, merely the size of a small city, with sleek black metal walls lined with glowing blue pathways that pulsed like veins. The air had a faint metallic scent, mixed with something else, a strange, almost electric energy that made the hairs on his arms stand up. This ship is intense, Lucas muttered, glancing around. Zavera walked beside him with perfect posture, her long obsidian black hair swaying slightly with each step. It is a warship. What were you expecting? I don't know. Maybe a house. A cozy home. A couch, at least. Lucas rubbed his neck. This place feels like a military base. Zavera gave him an unreadable look. That is because it is one. Lucas sighed. He had figured as much. The Thalkari were one of the most powerful warrior races in the Galactic Union. Their entire society revolved around strength, discipline, and honor. Of course, his new home wasn't going to be some peaceful countryside retreat. As they turned a corner, 2 Thalkari warriors stood at attention. They were tall like Zevera, clad in dark silver armor with sharp angular designs. Their copper-toned skin gleamed under the dim blue lighting, and their piercing violet eyes studied Lucas with quiet intensity. One of them, a male with short silver-white hair, spoke first. "This is the human." Lucas frowned. "This human has a name." The warrior blinked in surprise before giving a small, approving nod. "Interesting." Zavera gestured toward him. "This is Commander Ralvik, my second in command. And this." She turned to the other warrior, a female with shoulder-length dark red hair, tied in a tight braid. "Is Captain Viria." Viria gave Lucas a once-over, then smirked. "He looks fragile." Lucas exhaled sharply. "I'm standing right here." Zavera's lips twitched slightly. "He is not as weak as he appears." Lucas raised an eyebrow. Was that supposed to be a compliment? Ralvik crossed his arms. "You will have to prove yourself, human. The Thalkari do not respect words, only action." Lucas rolled his shoulders. "I've fought in wars, piloted starships, and survived on hostile planets. I think I'll manage." Viria chuckled. "We shall see." Lucas had the distinct feeling that fitting in here was going to take some serious effort. The living quarters, sort of. After the brief introduction, Zavera led him deeper into the ship until they reached a large metallic door. With a quick motion, she pressed a panel on the side, and the door slid open with a low hiss. Lucas stepped inside and froze. "This is where we live." The living quarters looked more like a strategic command room. A massive window overlooked the endless expanse of space, while various holographic displays and weapons racks lined the walls. The only sign of comfort was a large, sleek metallic bed in the center, though even that looked like it belonged in a high-tech military barracks. Zavera stepped beside him. "Is something wrong?" Lucas let out a weak laugh. "I don't know what I expected, but this wasn't it." He waved a hand at the weapon racks. "Why are there so many swords in here?" Zavera blinked. "For training, of course." "Training?" "In the bedroom." She tilted her head. "Where else would one refine their skills?" Lucas groaned. "This is going to be a long adjustment period." Zavera smirked. "You are adaptable. You will survive." Lucas sighed, rubbing his face. His new life had barely begun, and he already knew one thing for sure. This was going to be one hell of a marriage. Lucas sat on the edge of the metallic bed, staring at the ceiling. Sleep had been impossible. The hum of the warship, the strange, electric feel of the air, and the knowledge that he was now the mate of a warrior alien woman. All of it kept his mind racing. But mostly, it was the fact that his living quarters had no pillows. With a sigh, he sat up and stretched, only to find Zavera standing near the doorway, arms crossed, watching him with a raised eyebrow. "You are awake," she observed. "Hard not to be when your bed feels like a training mat." Lucas muttered, "You guys don't believe in pillows." Zavera smirked. "Comfort is a weakness." Lucas scoffed. "Tell that to my spine." She turned, motioning for him to follow. "Come. Your first test begins now." Lucas hesitated. "Test." Zavera's golden eyes gleamed. "You must prove you are worthy of standing beside me. The warriors of this ship must see your strength." Lucas groaned. "I was afraid you'd say that." The combat pit. The training arena was deep within the warship, a massive circular chamber surrounded by Thalkari warriors. The air was thick with energy, and the metallic floor hummed beneath Lucas's boots. Weapons lined the walls, and several warriors were already engaged in sparring matches. Ralvik stood in the center, his arms crossed. Beside him, Viria grinned like a predator watching prey. "The human arrives," Ralvik announced. "Let us see if he is worthy." Lucas sighed. "You guys really love this proving yourself thing, huh?" Zavera placed a hand on his shoulder. "Do not disappoint me, Lucas." "No pressure or anything," he muttered. Ralvik gestured toward a massive warrior stepping into the ring. The man was a mountain, at least 7 feet tall, with broad shoulders and arms like steel cables. His dark copper-toned skin gleamed under the lights, and his violet eyes locked onto Lucas with a mixture of curiosity and amusement. "This is Corvus, one of our finest warriors," Ralvik said. "Defeat him, and you will earn respect." Lucas blinked. "You guys do realize I'm human, right?" Viria grinned. "Then this should be entertaining." Lucas rolled his shoulders. "Yeah, for you." The fight begins. Corvus stepped forward, cracking his knuckles. "I will not go easy on you, human." "Figured as much," Lucas muttered. The moment the fight began, Corvus lunged. He was fast, far faster than Lucas expected from someone that size. Lucas barely dodged as the warrior's fist slammed into the ground, denting the metal floor. "Great," Lucas muttered. "I'm fighting a tank." Corvus swung again, but this time Lucas ducked and rolled to the side, using his smaller size to stay out of reach. He needed a plan. Going head-to-head with raw strength was suicide. Instead, he relied on speed and strategy. As Corvus charged, Lucas sidestepped at the last moment, letting the warrior's own momentum throw him off balance. With a quick pivot, Lucas landed a solid strike to the ribs. Corvus grunted but barely flinched. "Not bad." Lucas sighed. "You could at least pretend that hurt." Corvus came at him again, faster this time. Lucas barely managed to evade, ducking and weaving, landing quick hits where he could. The crowd murmured in interest. Zavera watched intently. Her human was holding his own. But Lucas knew he couldn't keep dodging forever. His stamina was running low. Then he spotted an opening. As Corvus prepared to throw another punch, Lucas dropped low and swept his legs out from under him. The massive warrior lost balance and crashed onto his back. Silence filled the arena. Lucas, panting, looked down at Corvus. "Still think I'm weak." The warrior blinked, then laughed. A deep, booming sound. He stood up, nodding. "You fight well, human." Ralvik gave an approving nod. Viria smirked. Zavera's lips curled into a rare smile. Lucas exhaled. He wasn't sure if he had won, but he had earned their respect. And that was a start. Lucas sat on a bench in the training arena, still catching his breath. His arms ached, and his legs felt like jelly after the fight with Corvus. His shirt was drenched in sweat, and he had a feeling his ribs would be bruised by morning. But he had done it. He had held his own. Zavera stood beside him, her golden eyes shining with something close to admiration. "You fought well." Lucas let out a tired chuckle. "Glad you think so, because I feel like I got hit by a truck." The warriors around the arena still whispered about the fight. Lucas could feel their stares, but they were different now. No longer full of doubt or dismissal. Instead, they carried a hint of respect. Ralvik approached, arms crossed over his armored chest. "Few outsiders impress us, but you did not run. You did not cower. You fought with strategy, not just brute force." Lucas smirked. "Yeah, well, brute force isn't exactly my thing." A deep laugh came from behind him. Corvus, the massive warrior he had just fought, grinned as he walked over. "You are small, but you are clever. I like that." Lucas arched an eyebrow. "I'll take that as a compliment." Corvus placed a heavy hand on Lucas's shoulder, nearly knocking him forward. "It is. I look forward to fighting you again." Lucas groaned. "Oh great, can't wait." The crowd slowly dispersed, but the atmosphere had changed. He could feel it. He wasn't just an outsider anymore. He was part of something. Zavera placed a firm hand on his shoulder. "Come, there is more to do." Lucas sighed. "Of course there is." A taste of their world. After a quick stop to grab food, Zavera led Lucas to a large observation deck. It was nothing like the cold, metallic halls of the ship. The walls were lined with glowing blue energy veins, pulsing like living light. The ceiling stretched high, displaying a massive view of space, filled with stars that seemed to burn brighter than anything Lucas had ever seen on Earth. He whistled. "Okay, gotta admit, this is incredible." Zavera watched him carefully. "It is home." Lucas turned to her. "So, what happens now?" She exhaled. "You have proven yourself in combat. That was the first step. But there is more to our people than fighting." Lucas nodded. "Good, because I'd rather not have to fight a 7-foot warrior every day." Zavera smirked. "Then perhaps you will enjoy your next task." Lucas raised an eyebrow. "And that is?" She gestured toward the massive window. In the distance, a planet loomed. Dark, rocky, with glowing rivers of lava cutting through its surface. "We are going there," Zavera said. Lucas frowned. "That looks like a place where people die." Zavera's expression didn't change. "It is a test. Survival. Strength. Adaptability. We will land there and see if you can endure." Lucas ran a hand through his hair. "You guys really love these tests." "It is our way." Lucas sighed. "All right, fine. But just so you know, I'm terrible with extreme heat." Zavera smirked. "Then this will be interesting." The descent. The warship moved swiftly, breaking through the planet's atmosphere. From the small transport ship, Lucas could see volcanic storms raging in the distance. The sky was dark, filled with ash and streaks of lightning. Lucas swallowed hard. "Okay, new question. Why exactly do we need to go down there?" Zavera checked her wrist console. "Because this planet is one of our harshest training grounds. Only the strongest endure." Lucas exhaled. "Oh, good. A vacation spot." The ship shook as it began landing. The ground rumbled, and the heat from the lava rivers could already be felt through the thick walls. As the hatch opened, Lucas was hit with a wave of scorching air. He immediately started sweating. Zavera stepped forward as if the heat didn't bother her at all. "Come, Lucas. Let us see what you are made of." Lucas groaned. "You just love making my life difficult, don't you?" Zavera smirked. "It amuses me." With a deep breath, Lucas stepped forward onto the burning planet, ready for whatever insane challenge came next. The heat was unbearable. Lucas wiped the sweat from his forehead, his breath coming in short, hot gasps. The air on this planet was thick, heavy, like he was breathing through a layer of smoke. The ground beneath him was blackened rock, cracked from the constant waves of heat rising from the rivers of lava in the distance. Zavera, on the other hand, seemed completely unfazed. She walked ahead with steady, confident strides, her deep violet skin fairly glistening with sweat. Her long silver hair, tied in a warrior's braid, swayed slightly as she moved. Lucas groaned. "You sure you're not part machine? Because there's no way you're not feeling this heat." She glanced back at him, golden eyes gleaming with amusement. "We were trained for this. You, however." She let her sentence hang. Lucas sighed. Yeah, I get it. Human bodies are weak." She tilted her head slightly. "Not weak. Just untested." Lucas gritted his teeth and pushed forward. He wasn't going to quit. Survival in the inferno. They moved carefully through the rocky terrain, each step kicking up small clouds of ash. The sky above was dark, streaked with red lightning. In the distance, a loud cracking sound echoed through the air, like something massive shifting beneath the planet's surface. Lucas wiped more sweat from his eyes. "So what exactly are we looking for?" Zavera pointed ahead. "A cavern. A shelter. You will need to prove you can survive in hostile conditions." Lucas raised an eyebrow. "Let me guess, you guys don't believe in air-conditioned buildings." Zavera smirked. "Survival is not meant to be comfortable." Lucas exhaled. He was about to respond when the ground beneath his feet shook violently. A low, deep rumbling filled the air. The rocks around them cracked. And suddenly, a massive fissure split open beneath them. Lucas barely had time to react. He jumped, throwing himself backward as a huge chunk of the ground collapsed into a glowing pit of molten rock. The intense heat blasted against his face, making his skin prickle. Zavera, who had leaped to the side with ease, turned to him. "You are slow." Lucas groaned. "I didn't exactly get training on jumping over lava pits." Zavera smirked. "Then consider this your first lesson." Lucas muttered under his breath but forced himself to keep moving. His body ached, his lungs burned, but he refused to stop. A deadly predator. They finally found a jagged rock formation leading into a dark cavern. Lucas stumbled inside, relieved to be out of the open heat. For a moment, he simply sat against the cool stone wall, catching his breath. "Please tell me we're staying here for a while." Zavera didn't answer. Lucas frowned and looked up. Her posture had changed, tense, alert. Her golden eyes scanned the darkness ahead. Lucas followed her gaze. The cave was eerily silent. Too silent. Then, a soft clicking sound. Lucas felt a chill crawl down his spine. Tell me that was your boot." Zavera shook her head. "We are not alone." Before Lucas could react, something moved in the shadows. A pair of glowing red eyes blinked open, followed by another. Then another. Lucas's heart pounded. Something big was watching them. And it wasn't friendly. Lucas barely had time to process what he was seeing. From the darkness of the cave, red eyes blinked in and out of existence, moving with unnatural speed. Shapes shifted against the stone walls, tall, spindly figures that seemed to blend into the shadows themselves. Zavera slowly reached for the blade at her hip. Lucas, on the other hand, felt his stomach drop. "Tell me those things aren't as deadly as they look." Zavera's voice was calm but firm. "If we are lucky, they will kill us quickly." Lucas groaned. "Great, fantastic. Love the optimism." A low, clicking growl rumbled from the cave's depths. Then, they attacked. The fight for survival. The creatures moved like ghosts, their thin limbs twisting unnaturally as they lunged. Lucas barely had time to duck, as clawed fingers slashed through the air where his head had been a moment before. Zavera was already in motion. With a swift motion, she unsheathed her energy blade, a shimmering silver-blue weapon that crackled with alien energy. She spun, slicing through one of the creatures with a precise, deadly arc. It let out a horrible screech before collapsing into the dust. Lucas stumbled backward as another lunged straight at him. Instinct kicked in. He raised his arm to shield himself. A sharp pain burned through his shoulder. The creature's claws barely missed his face, but they tore into his jacket, ripping fabric and drawing blood. "Lucas, move." Zavera's voice snapped through the chaos. Lucas gritted his teeth, ignoring the pain. He reached for his sidearm, a standard-issue plasma pistol, and fired. The blue bolt of energy struck the creature square in the chest. It let out a choked hiss, its body convulsing before it dropped to the ground. One down, but there were more. Too many. The escape plan. Zavera spun and slashed through another attacker, her movements fluid and graceful. Lucas, on the other hand, was scrambling just to stay alive. "This is bad," he panted, backing up toward the cave entrance. "We can't fight them all." Zavera's eyes flicked toward him, assessing. Then she did something unexpected. She grabbed his wrist. Lucas barely had time to react before she pulled him forward, running full speed deeper into the cavern. "Wait, why are we going further in?" Lucas shouted. "They hunt by light and sound," Zavera explained as they ran. "If we reach the lower tunnels, we might lose them." Lucas wasn't sure if might was supposed to make him feel better, but he didn't have time to argue. Behind them, the creatures shrieked in frustration, their claws scraping against stone as they chased after their fleeing prey. Lucas's heart pounded. He pushed his legs harder, ignoring the burning in his muscles. The cave twisted and turned, the path narrowing. The air grew cooler, damper. Then, a drop. Zavera stopped so suddenly that Lucas nearly slammed into her. Ahead of them, the rocky ground ended abruptly. It was a straight drop down into a dark abyss. Lucas swallowed hard. Tell me there's a plan here. Zavera glanced back, listening to the screeching creatures growing closer. Then she looked at him. We jump. Lucas's eyes widened. That's not a plan. That's suicide. Zavera didn't hesitate. She grabbed his hand again and leaped. Lucas had no choice. With a yell, he followed. And the darkness swallowed them whole. Darkness swallowed them. Lucas barely had time to register the sensation of falling before cold air rushed past his face. His stomach lurched, his body twisting as he plummeted into the abyss. Then, water. The impact hit like a punch, knocking the air from his lungs. For a terrifying second, everything was black, silent, suffocating. Then his body kicked into survival mode. He fought his way upward, kicking his legs, pushing through the freezing water. His head broke the surface with a gasp. Where was Zavera? He whipped his head around. The cave ceiling above was barely visible, but the underground lake stretched into darkness. Then, a ripple. Zavera surfaced a few feet away, shaking water from her dark blue hair. She sucked in a breath, eyes scanning the surroundings. You alive? She called. Mostly, Lucas coughed, swimming toward her. But next time, how about a warning before we jump off a cliff? Zavera smirked. Would you have jumped? Fair point. A hidden path. Lucas treaded water, trying to see beyond the dim glow of his wrist communicator. Tell me you know where we are. Zavera turned, studying the rocky walls surrounding the lake. Then she pointed. There. A tunnel. Lucas followed her gaze. A narrow opening barely visible above the waterline. It looked like a tight fit, but at this point, he wasn't about to argue. Together, they swam toward it. The tunnel was cold, the walls slick with moisture. It was just wide enough for them to move through single file. The deeper they went, the quieter everything became. Lucas's breath echoed. His pulse thumped in his ears. Then, a soft glow up ahead. Zavera picked up the pace. Lucas followed, heart pounding. As they reached the end of the passage, the tunnel opened into a massive cavern. And in the center, the heart of the ruins, a structure unlike anything Lucas had ever seen. It rose from the cavern floor like an ancient temple covered in glowing blue alien symbols. Towering pillars stretched toward the ceiling, and a massive crystalline core pulsed with energy at its center. Lucas exhaled slowly. Okay, this is definitely important. Zavera's eyes gleamed with awe. This is it, the core of the ancient civilization. Lucas climbed out of the water, his boots squelching against the smooth stone floor. He turned back, offering a hand to Zavera. She took it, pulling herself onto the platform. They moved toward the glowing structure. Lucas could feel a low hum vibrating in the air. His fingertips tingled as he approached. Then Zavera stopped suddenly. Wait. Lucas froze. What? Zavera's expression darkened. We are not alone. The final threat. A shadow moved beyond the glowing core. Lucas's fingers twitched toward his weapon. Please tell me it's not another monster. Worse. From the darkness, a figure stepped forward. A tall alien male, clad in dark armor, his silver eyes cold and calculating. The insignia on his chest marked him as a high-ranking warrior from the Dominion, the ruthless empire that had been hunting them. He smiled. Well, I was beginning to think no one would make it this far. Zavera tensed. Tarkus. Lucas narrowed his eyes. Friend of yours? Enemy, Zavera said, voice tight. Tarkus tilted his head. And here I thought you were smarter than this, Zavera. Did you really think you could claim this power for yourself? His gaze flicked to Lucas. And you, I assume you're the human she's so desperate to breed with. Lucas bristled. Okay, first of all, phrasing. Second, Tarkus moved fast. Too fast. Lucas barely had time to dodge as Tarkus's blade shot toward him. He stumbled back, heart pounding, while Zavera met Tarkus's attack with her own weapon. Sparks lit up the cavern as their energy blades clashed. Tarkus was strong, but Zavera was faster. She ducked, spun, and struck. A deep gash cut across Tarkus's armor. He hissed, stepping back. "You'll regret that," he growled. Lucas, regaining his footing, raised his plasma gun and fired. The blast struck Tarkus in the shoulder, making him stagger. Zavera didn't hesitate. She lunged, delivering a final, precise strike. Tarkus's eyes widened. Then he crumpled to the ground. For a moment, only silence remained. A new future. Lucas exhaled. "Is he dead?" Zavera checked. Then she nodded. "Yes." Lucas let out a nervous laugh. "Good, because I'm out of energy for today." Zavera turned toward the glowing core. She touched its surface gently, and the energy pulsed beneath her fingers. "This technology," she murmured, "it could change everything." Lucas stood beside her. "So what now?" Zavera looked at him. And then she smiled. "We build the future." Lucas grinned. "With at least 15 kids, right?" Zavera smirked. "At least." Together, they turned toward the glowing structure, the beginning of something new. And for the first time, Lucas felt truly at home.